Alrighty, we are in our Shaar of Shaar Hagilgulim. We're back. We didn't have the Shaar in a couple of weeks. We are in the middle of Hagdama Gimel, the third Hagdama, the Ari Kadosh, as written by Rabbi Chaim Vital. And it says over here, we're up to the Hagdama Gimel, over here, Amnam Bechol Dor Vador. Right here. Bechol Dor Vador. In every generation, so we were talking about different kinds of Gilgulim. We talked about there's a guy, it comes back as a Yibum, right? And a Yibum is something special. He could get back all parts of his Neshama in one Gilgul. A regular guy who's reincarnated can only get either the Nefesh, or the Ruach, or the Neshama. He can't get all three back at the same time. He has to die to get them back. But a person who comes back in a Levirate, through a Levirate marriage, he does get all three parts back. If he's zoche, he could. He's possible. He doesn't have to die to get them. He says over here, but every generation, kol dor vador yotzot k'tzat nitzotzot hahem ubaim b'gilgul b'olam hazeh. Every generation, some nitzotzot that were in Adam HaRishon come out. There's new ones that come out every generation. That means every generation has new nishamot. If we're all old nishamot, if we're all old nitzotzot, then what did the Ari mean that says some generation was the head of Adam HaRishon and we're the heel of Adam HaRishon? It means the heels of Adam HaRishon, those neshama that were in the heel, didn't come out when it was the generation of the head, right? That means in every generation there's new nitzotzot. What does that mean? That means you could have been part of another neshama, but this is the first time that your specific spark is the owner of the body. You understand? That's already considered a new neshama, a new nitzotz. It's a new nitzotz considered, because the nitzotz is like a guy had 1,000 sparks, he only fixed 900. The 100 that's left, they were inside of him when he was 1,000 sparks, but they weren't the owners of the body. You understand? They weren't the main player.
And he didn't fix them.
So now they come back and they're considered the new. It's like a new neshama. The 900 that went to the previous guy. Whatever's left as 100, this is an example, he's the new owner of the body, it's a new neshama. Right? Everything depends on the level of the generation and on the system of that generation. For example, our generation, the Ari says, already from the Ari's time till today, we're all the souls of the heel. So from the Ari till today, 500 years, let's say, about 500 years, we're all healed, neshamot.
But then Ari says that there's no more Nishmat coming.
So that's a very common misconception. That was something written in Shaar Pesukim. That after the second Beit Hamidrash, there's no new nishamot, but the Ari in Shaar Hagilgulim obviously explains further. There is no new nishamot from Atzilut, but there are new nishamot from Beriah, Yitzirah, and Asiyah. That's what he's going to explain Hagdama Zayin in Shaar Hagilgulim. So people learn Shaar Pesukim, or they heard it in some lecture, and from this they made like a whole thing and made everyone crazy about it. But it's nonsense. They never learned Shaar. They never finished. I don't know. I maybe know 10 people in my whole life that finished the whole Etz HaChaim of the Ari. The whole Etz HaChaim. All those red books over there of the Ari, maybe I know 10 people that finished the whole thing. People learn a couple of things here, a couple of things there. They read a nice pamphlet here, and they think they're already Sar Bet HaZohar. They're the minister, they're the princes of the house of the Zohar. Today everybody's Sar Bet HaZohar. They're the masters of the Zohar. The guy never finished one book of the Etz HaChaim, he thinks he's a Sar Bet HaZohar. I think that I'm the farthest from that. You understand? And myself. Back in the day, the Ben Ish Chai was considered. He was really Sar Bet HaZohar. When the Ben Ish Chai was towards the end of his life, he had a student. There was a chief rabbi in Israel of Mordechai Eliyahu, right? Or Mordechai Eliyahu, remember? His father was Rav Salman Eliyahu. He was a big tzaddik, Mikubal, tzaddik. When Rav Salman Eliyahu was a young man, he moved to Israel. First of all, he was supposed to go to Oxford University.
From Baghdad, huh?
Yeah, he was supposed to go to Oxford. They were under the Britain.
Why Oxford? A religious person? Why?
No, he didn't come from a religious family.
Oh.
And his uncles raised him. They were very rich. And he knew English very well, he knew mathematics, he was very smart. He got into Oxford University. Oxford University is
top.
It's like the top of Ivy League. And one day he meets the Ben Ish Chai and he just falls in love with him, and he tells his uncles, I'm done with this world. He's like, what? We already paid for the ticket, this, that. The story goes they were eating watermelon. Baghdadians love watermelon. It's very hot over there. They want to take the watermelon and smash his head with it. Long story short, he left the house. He lived a life of poverty, and he used to learn by the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai used to give us shiur on Gemara, the Gadaev Gemara, just the stories of the Gemara. Every day after Shaar with his tefillin on, and he used to teach also Sod, secrets of the Torah. It's Haib, and the Kerem Shlomo, the Rav Salman Eliyahu, he never used to understand anything. So he told him the Sigula to open your mind in Torah. Sigula, one mitzvah that has the power to open up your mind. It's like a side effect. When you see an old man over the age of 60, according to the Ari, according to the Ben Ish Chai, over the age of 70, according to the Shulchan Aruch, over the age of 70, or you see any Talmid Chacham, stand up for him. This mitzvah is going to open up your mind in Torah.
Talmid Chacham, just in general.
If he's a Talmid Chacham, even if he's 10 years old. If he's not a Talmid Chacham, if he's over the age of 60, according to the Ari, 70, according to Shulchan Aruch, you have to stand up for him. Not all the way, you could just go like this, called Hidur, like, you have to go like this for him. So if you want to be L'chatchila, you should stand up all the way. For your parents, of course, you stand up all the way. For your Rebbe, you have to stand up all the way. If he's your Rebbe with Pop. And he would do that, he gave him the kavanah to do, and his mind opened up in the Torah, and he told the Ben Ish Chai, I'm moving to Israel. For them it was, when you moved to Israel, it wasn't to run away from anti-Semitism, which is going crazy in New York lately. This is past Shabbat, swastikas over dental offices. I don't want to say the word blank, the Jews. Crazy stuff happening. It's like they're not afraid anymore, the anti-Semites. I'm not afraid. It's getting really crazy. And but that's not the reason why to move to Israel. You move to Israel for one reason. People go to Israel for one reason. That's the guys who stay over there. You're looking for Hashem. In Israel, that's where you find it more in Revelation. I'm moving to Eretz Yisrael, he said. Ben Ish Chai never moved to Eretz Yisrael. He visited Israel, I think, one time. And he made a ziyarat, as they say. He went to all the Kvarim, and when he went to the kever of Benayahu ben Yehoyada, he felt a very big power over there. That's why all of his books he named after Benayahu ben Yehoyada, the general of Shalom HaMelech. People want to make a mistake and say that Ben Ish Chai was his Gilgul. It has nothing to do with that. Every tzaddik have the power to reach a certain revelation in that kever. It's a very big thing to daven over there, and by Benayahu ben Yehoyada. Very big thing. So Ben Ish Chai, he never lived in Eretz Yisrael. He passed away actually in Elul time. Ben Ish Chai, he was visiting the kever of Yecheskel HaNavi. Ezekiel, he's buried in Iraq. Also Ezra HaSofer is buried in Iraq. Also Yoshua Kohen Gadol is buried in Iraq. Very big tzaddikim. Geonim, all the Tanaim, Amoraim, not Tanaim, Amoraim mostly, from the Gemara's time.
Are the graves are still there?
They're still there. Good question. The grave of Ezekiel, Yecheskel HaNavi, is still there, obviously. The Arabs also believe that he's a Navi. Right? They believe in the Torah.
Yeah.
Contradiction, but what can you do? So on his way back from Yecheskel HaNavi, he got sick and he passed away. It was a known thing that he used to sometimes sign his name Yecheskel, Ben Ish Chai. He was very connected to the Navi Yecheskel, very connected. I read once in a book actually by Rav Mazuz, that Ben Ish Chai had the nitzotz also of Yoav ben Tzeruya. Yoav, the general of David HaMelech, who was killed by Benayahu. But nothing is, we're not the Arya Kadosh today to tell you who's for sure, who's Gilgul, you know? But it was a known thing that he was very connected to the Navi Yecheskel. He even has a book, Pirush on the Navi Yecheskel. Just the Mar'ot Yecheskel, just the vision. Whatever happened was, so the Kerem Shlomo asked, I'm going to Israel right now, and I want to know who should I find as a teacher to teach me I learned by you, but now I'm going to go over there. How do I know, can I test if somebody's a real, he knows what he's saying. Ben Ish Chai said, I'll give you 3 ways. If he passes all 3, learn from him. If not, you could learn from him, but you should know he's not a real chacham. He doesn't know the works of the Ari. So what? Because first, to know if he's really a Talmid Chacham in the works of the Ari, he has to know all the Rashash, and he has to explain to you on the Rashash, Rabbi Shalom Sharavi. There is his student was Rabbi Chaim de la Rosa, a Torah Chacham. He has a perush on the Rashash. If you could open him a Torah Chacham and he could explain to you one page over there, he passed the first test. And I'm just let you know right now, nobody learns the Torah Chacham today. Nobody even opens the book. There are very few people. Very hard book to learn. Super hard. You're gonna open the book, your mind's gonna go, you're gonna fall asleep like this. It's like lahavdil, quantum physics. The Rashash itself is hard to understand. Now the Torah Chacham on the Rashash, forget about it. Very hard to learn. Only very few people in the world learn the Torah Chacham. Second thing, if he could do that, he passed the first.
On the first one.
That's the first one. Second thing, the Rashash has a introduction, 10 pages long. On this 10 pages, you could sit your whole life learning it. And that's how hard it is. It's called Hagdamat Rechovot HaNahar. Rechovot HaNahar. On the end, he writes how the world stand. If you look in the Ari, you don't know how he got his conclusion. Whoever could tell you, he said, where the Rashash found that thing that he wrote in the works of the Ari, second check. If he could tell you the source, where in the 8 gates of the Ari that the Rashash find, it's called the Machatzev HaNishamot, in his introduction to Rechot HaNahar, that's the second test.
That was his Gilgul now, right?
Who, Rashash? The Sadeh said that he was the Nitzotz of the Ari. The Nitzotz. The Ari never needed a Gilgul. He himself only...
He promised to come back to...
He promised to come back, but don't forget, if you learn Sefer Chezionot, the book of Revelations of Rav Chaim Vital, which Hashem should bless me, I should be able to translate that book.
Man.
If in the book of Sefer Chezionot, Rav Chaim Vital reveals that the Ari used to learn with him in his dream for like years. For years. He would come to him in a dream, they would actually learn together. And also in Rav Chaim Vital's oldest son that passed away from his second wife, was the Nitzotz was the Ibur Nishama of his Rebbe, the Ari. He writes that in Sefer Chezionot. So they say the Rashash also. It could be the Rashash was from that Shorish Nishama. Okay, but they say, I don't want to get into that right now, but that's the second test.
Right.
The third test, there was a rabbi called Rav Shlomo Molcho. He wrote a book called Shemen Zaydhin. Shemen Zaydhin. This whole book just contradicts the Rashash. That's the whole book. Brings Rashash, says, you ask a huge question on him, next. Part of the Rashash, question, knocks it out. Question is, if which rabbi in Israel that could answer all of the Shemen Zaydhin's question, that's the third test. He's a true Talmid Chacham, you could learn from him. And nobody in this world, in the generation that I know of, knows all the answers of the Shemen Zaydhin and the Rashash.
So when he went...
When he went to Israel, when he went...
Start testing everybody? Or?
Yeah, he said, no, he didn't tell you. He was a man of emet, of truth. He started to, when he used to go to the shiurim, he would ask those questions in the middle to the teacher. Nobody do it. Till he got to the Sadeh. Rabbi Shaul Chaim Duek HaKohen. The Sadeh HaKadosh. You see those blue books over there? So on the blue books, on the bottom, it says Perush, his commentary. Rabbi Shaul Chaim Duek HaKohen, he asked him these questions. He was able to answer all of them. And the story goes, I don't know how true it is, he told him, now I could learn from you. Now you're the real Rebbe. But then the story continues, and then the Sadeh tells Rav Salman Eliyahu, you're the real, I may be the real Rebbe, but who says you're the real Talmid? Now I gotta test you. That story goes. So listen, when those back in the days, when they were learning the Arida, this was their mikzoah. This was their job. This is how they got revelations. This is how they got to a level of Ruach HaKodesh. A level of today, we're not even a trapka. We're not even a mop in front of these tzaddikim. Unbelievable. What? They went through just to find their Rebbe. And back then, to go after the Rebbe to teach you something, they would go to the ends of the world. If there was a Rebbe that was willing to teach them this, they would go to the ends of the world to learn from him. Today, the Rebbe runs after the Talmud to learn from me something. So you mamash yiridat hadorot. You understand? And this is chokhmah. There is no mikubal in the world. In the world, it's as clear as Rabbi Chaim Vital. Nothing. And there's many. I have this book that just came out after hundreds of years. 400 years. It was just reprinted. It's called She'erit Yosef. You open up the book, you don't know what to say. You don't know what's flying over there. Rabbi Chaim Vital, why did the Ari choose Rabbi Chaim Vital? First of all, in Shamayim they said, you come down for him. Second, no, he had a skill. When he used to hear, he used to know how to write. That's yours or mine? If it's an emergency, take it. He used to know how to write, and Baruch Hashem, if it wasn't for Rabbi when I learned Torah Ta'ari, I called Torah Rabbi Chaim Vital. If it wasn't for Rabbi Chaim Vital, there wouldn't be Ari HaKadosh today. We have writings of the Ari HaKadosh. You can't understand the word he's saying. You don't understand him. But Rabbi Chaim Vital, the power to write. He knew what he was writing. He felt it. The Ari said, after he passed away, all the students here take their writings, put it in Genizah. Only Rabbi Chaim Vital knew what I was saying and he wrote correctly. The students actually put it in Genizah? No, they took their writings, they printed them. And from that comes the contradictions of all of our books between this text and that text. Why is there contradictions? They didn't listen to their Rebbe. Especially in Ashkenaz. They took their writings, they went to Europe. They spread their writings over there. That's how all the Hagdamot came out that were incorrect, like Rabbi Chaim Vital. A lot of Balagans came. They didn't listen to the Rav. So you see, look at the Koach. He says, there are Nitzot of Neshama according to the system of that generation. If he's from the head, Harosh, or Ha'ayin, Neshamot from the Ayin. Or Neshamot from the Akevayim. Neshamot from the liver of Adam HaRishon. Every generation, Baruch Hashem, we're at the end already. Today I was speaking to someone who said, Mashiach is coming, Russia's invading Ukraine. The Gra said, when you see Russia's ships going through the Dardanelles, it's a place in the Black Sea. If you see them passing, prepare your Shabbat clothes. If they reach Istanbul, Turkey, put your Shabbat clothes and don't take them off. I said to him, Ya Habibi, are you crazy? Are you nuts? Did you lose your mind over here? This is what today is the whole world making a big deal. Russia's invading Ukraine. Get out of Ukraine. Israel sent airplanes to bring the Israelis back home. Airplanes are empty. They don't want to leave. Flights to Ukraine, $1,000. People are going to Ukraine. The news said over there, the Kiev airport is empty. Tel Aviv airport to Ukraine. In a sense, it's all voymen. If it turns into something, matov u'manaim. Waiting for Mashiach Tzidkenu, but that's not a reason to go crazy. You know what I mean? We don't know their politics. One sign I do see of the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu in Masechet Sotah, it says Hayoker Ya'amir, prices will go off the roof. Just in New York alone, Con Ed is doing a bump in the electricity by 19%. My wife was telling me, she says, I understand, it's winter, our bill is $150. And I said, isn't it supposed to be like 70, 65? We look in the thing, everything, they hiked up all the prices. You understand? Crazy stuff. In Israel, forget about it. The taxes over off the roof. Over here, prices rising. Houses, you can't even touch a house over here. You can't touch anything. You understand? That's one sign of the coming of this, but Russia invading Ukraine, the whole story of, come on, don't sell me Baba Mises. V'yesh says over here, we did a lot of stories today. ויש מי שאף בא בגלגול, look inside. Some people come in a גלגול, לתקן, לא נזהר מן החטא. He didn't stop himself from doing עבירות, and obviously he didn't do תשובה either. וחזר להשתקע בתוך הקהלי, וכל הרצות והמשכות ממנו תלויות בו, וזאת בכלל בינונית, כי הוא גלגול ועיבור. It says some people, he comes back in a גלגול, instead of fixing himself and finishing the job already, he falls deeper inside the klipa, and all of his nitzot with him fall. What happens? Hashem doesn't want them all to come back again. What does he do? כי כל ניצוצי הנפש, אפילו אותם שנתקנו באים בגלגול גמור עם הנפש הפרטי המקולקל מעת שנולד, ואינם נפרדים כלל עד יום המיטה. He says, sometimes even the parts of your neshama that you fixed in your previous gilgulim, they come back inside of you to help you. But they don't come in a full gilgul. It's called gilgul hadome le'ibur, or ibur hadome le'gilgul. What does that mean? They're inside of you to help you. Because they want you to fix yourself. They want you to fix yourself. But they don't get the averot. If you make an avera, they're not part of it. They don't leave.
That's fair.
That's fair. They come to help you, because you're them, technically speaking. You were once them. They come to help you, but they don't take part of your averot. But they also suffer with you. If you're in pain, this, that, they do suffer with you. But they don't get part of your averot. That means they add the mitzvot. They don't get the averot, says Dari. They don't get part of the averot. They only get your merits. That means inside of you right now, you could have many more mitzvot that don't belong to you. They're already fixed. They belong to a different body, but they're coming down to you as a favor. First of all, you're doing them a favor, and they're doing you a favor. You're doing them a favor because you're fixing the shorish. You could be the last mitzvot. They're doing you a favor because they're coming down to help you and they're suffering with you. You understand? That's the meaning you find sometimes in Pinchas. Suddenly Nadav and Avihu go inside of him. Why did they go inside of him? Because Pinchas is their Shorosh Neshama. They want to go inside Pinchas to help him.
It's their nephew.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to learn later on, most people, they're connected to their family line. That means it's easier for a person to come in a ibur in his family than it is to come in a different person. This kind of ibur is different than the ibur we learned before. A person does a mitzvah, a tzaddik comes inside of it. That tzaddik could leave whatever he wants. Right? Remember we learned that you did a big mitzvah, like some tzaddik that did a mitzvah 300 years ago. He sees you did a mitzvah like him, he comes down inside of you to help him. Yes or no? That's not what we're talking about right now. This is a different kind of ibur. This ibur we're talking about right now, they're stuck with you. From the day you're born. They just don't take part of your averot. So it's kind of like a gilgul, it's also kind of like an ibur. Because he doesn't get your averot, he just gets your mitzvot. Okay, it's called גלגול הדומה לעיבור. ונמצא, we see, כי ניצוץ שלא נתקן כלל על ידי קיום המצוות והמתייחסות לו, או שבר עבירה מאותן שאין לו תחייה. Any ניצוץ, any spark of a neshama that didn't fulfill the mitzvah he was supposed to fulfill, or he did an avera that has no tchiyat hametim afterwards, like he was a kofer beikar. הוא מתגלגל בגוף השני ונקרא על שמו. He's the main owner of the body now. He comes back in a full-blown gilgul. והניצוצות שנתקנו במצוות, and the ניצוצות, the sparks, that did do the mitzvot, but they just have a small avera, they come back inside the person to help him and to suffer with him. Why? What's better? If a person didn't pray shacharit, mincha, he did a small avera, not shalom, he ate on Yom Kippur. That's a big avera. That you got to go to Gehenom or Kafakela. But a person did a small avera. Mitzvat aseh. He was mevatel mitzvat aseh. Hashem doesn't want to send him to Gehenom. What does he do? He sends him inside Ibur. He suffers with the guy. 60, 70 years. No, he suffers with him for the whole life.
Wow.
But he's also adding mitzvot at the same time. Because every mitzvah that this guy does, he also gets a part of it too.
But not averot.
Not averot. That's called an easier tikkun. Understand?
But
So that means, let's say I did so many mitzvot, but I'm missing a couple of mitzvot. Also, I did some averot that, not Shalom, correct.
isn't it suffering for that neshama to be inside of the other body?
No, he wants to do that.
He just sits there and he
He helps him. He helps him.
It's not suffering for
No.
No?
It's a plus. He doesn't get to go to Gehinnom. The guy falls, he gets hurt. That neshama also feels it too. Like this, he cleans himself slowly, and every mitzvah that he does, he gets it too. It's a plus.
And you push him for a mitzvah.
He push him for the mitzvah, and like this, the tikkun process finishes faster. Right?
It's a big chesed from Hashem.
That's what he's gonna say right now. It's a very big chesed from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he does this. But only if you're zochet. That means not always these neshamot want to come down with you. Your previous neshamot, your previous gilgulim, your previous nitzotzot. Not all the time they want to come down to you. You need a zechut.
Right. But you just said sometimes they got no choice. They rather come down than to go to Gehinnom.
Sometimes. But in general, they will only come down if they feel that nitzotz means the leftover of them.
It needs help.
It needs help, and we want to finish the line already.
Yeah.
It needs to finish already. You understand? So we got to look at ourselves, like, why the heck are we down here? It must be that we were, because you only come back in a full-blown gilgul, only, he said, for two reasons. You didn't do the mitzvot that you needed to do, and those mitzvot you can't come back in the ibur. Because some mitzvot you just come back in the ibur, you do them, and poof, you're done. That means it was a mitzvah that you needed to do, or you did a averah that you have no tchiyat hametim. So the previous body is gone. So everybody comes back in the second one. So probably our tikkun is mostly in the mitzvot that we didn't fulfill. Yeah. That's why we have to run after do all the mitzvot aseh. Pidyon Peter Chamor, which is one. Right now is Shemitah year. You know? It's a big mitzvah to be mekayim. If you own a land in Israel, it's a very big mitzvah.
You guys gonna have a hard time to eat in Israel.
Yeah, fruits and vegetables, yeah.
I don't even know if there's special stores over there, you gotta go there.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I gotta let Eli know. He's gonna destroy the Kiddush HaShvi'it. Let's do one more paragraph and that's it. העולה מזה, summary, כאשר הנפש מתגלגל בעולם הזה, when a soul comes back in this world in a gilgul, אין עיקר גלגולה, אלא באותו חלק הפרטי, הפגום מתייחס לגוף ההוא. The name, the soul, that's the owner of the body, that he's the one that's his name, he gets the name in the Brit Milah, that's the most blemished spark. He's the main player. You understand? Who's the owner of the body right now? The most perfected part of the neshama or the most pagum? The pagum one, because he's the one that needs to do most of the work, right?
Right.
That's scary. Who are we? And the other parts that already were in bodies, when they were fixed, they only could come back in the ibur. So when I do a mitzvah, those guys, my previous gilgulim that are inside of me right now to help me, they also they also get part of the mitzvah. And they also help him. They want you to do the mitzvah, they push you to the mitzvah. You could even look at it like this, that when a person starts waking up for shacharit every morning, I don't know where he gets that power. Those are his nitzotzot that are pushing him to do it. Yeah, it's a very big thing. When a person does an avera, he doesn't get a part of the avera. Because because he's there to help you and not to make you do avera, because that neshama never, those iburs never make you get, they never push you to do avera. They actually want to stop you from doing the avera. So therefore they only get chelek of the tov, and not chas shalom, the opposite. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen B'Amen. We will continue with the Shalom next week.